Hi, I'm Todd Bannor. Welcome to my channel. I've been making videos for a while now, and I post some to YouTube. I also produce videos for clients. A lot of those are on their channels. I'm planning on making more videos for YouTube, and I thought it might be interesting for people to know a little bit about me and my background and how I got into photography and videography. The first photograph that I took was with a Kodak Brownie loaded with 127 black and white roll film. And it was a photo of the family dog that I took a long time ago. Big, burly German Shepherd. And that was with a family camera that I think had been in the family for a few decades. A few years later, my parents gave me a Kodak Instamatic for Christmas. And some older folks might remember the Instamatic. It was the equivalent of a point and shoot. Had a fixed focus lens and cartridge film, so it was really hard to screw it up. If you opened the camera up, you only destroyed one frame of film if you hadn't advanced it all the way to the end. So I really, as a child, really liked photography. And when I graduated from college, after majoring in biology, my parents gave me a Canon film SLR, film of course, a Canon AT1, which was the manual exposure version of the AE1, which was a shutter priority automatic exposure camera. The exposure was set by using two needles in the viewfinder. There was a metering needle, and then there was an exposure needle that actually had a round tip to it, and you lined those up to get the proper exposure. And it was easy to over and underexpose intentionally if you wanted to. You could tell how far you were by the clicks on the aperture ring on the lens and the shutter speed dial, and also visually in the viewfinder. So photography became a really fun hobby. I ended up going to graduate school. Received a master's degree in molecular biology. Went on from that to be an infectious disease researcher for a large pharmaceutical company that's since been merged out of existence. After a few years in research, I decided not to make it a career. And I moved into selling laboratory instrumentation, primarily imaging systems. So the photography thing was there. It was imaging lab samples. In the mid-90s, I took a hiatus from selling laboratory instruments to working as a photo researcher for a stock photo agency on the north side of Chicago that specialized in medical, scientific, and healthcare images. And they hired me because of my technical background. So I could converse with their clients on images for articles, textbooks, advertisements. And I also entered keywords into our database because everything was still on film then. So we kept a database of the images. We actually sent the film out to our customers for their use. It's so much easier with digital today. The really cool thing about this agency is they had a studio with professional lighting. The studio was mocked up to look like a doctor's exam room. So I started setting up stock photo shoots and shooting them. Got friends to volunteer as models and built a library of medical and scientific stock photos. I moved back into a sales career and pretty much did that the rest of my career. But photography was always a sideline. In the mid-2000s, I started doing campaign photography for my Illinois state senator. And word got around, and I soon found myself photographing people like Howard Dean, then Mayor Daley of Chicago, John Kerry. And in 2007, I was asked to photograph a fundraising event for Barack Obama early on in his presidential campaign. Long story short, I found myself about every month photographing fundraisers for the Obama campaign. And after he became president, I photographed presidential fundraising events in Chicago. Many times I was working next to Pete Souza, the White House photographer. His photos were public domain because the government owned them, and my photos were available to use for political purposes. His weren't. Now I am out of my sales career, and I do photography and videography full-time. I do work for clients in the Chicago area, and I am going to put up YouTube videos on various subjects, mostly having to do with photography and such, but perhaps other things as well. I've also just published an ebook. It's called Starved Rock State Park Through the Seasons. Now, I live, as I mentioned, in the Chicago area. And Illinois, where Chicago is located, as most people, at least in the United States, know, Illinois is pretty flat. The northwest corner and the southern tip are hilly because the glaciers missed that. And the rest of the state was below us flat by the glaciers. However, Starved Rock is about an hour and a half by car west-southwest of Chicago. And at that point, a fold in the earth, in the bedrock, has brought the bedrock close to the surface. And the Illinois River channel cuts through the bedrock at that point. So you have exposed cliffs along the river, and you also have canyons, not very deep, but sometimes pretty extensive, into the bedrock, south of the river, about 100 feet or so at their deepest points. These canyons are very picturesque. There are waterfalls at the head of every canyon, varying from a few feet to 65 feet or so. They also, in the wintertime, those waterfalls freeze. And ice climbing is allowed on 3 of those falls. At any rate, the book is a book of photographs and briefly mentions the biology and the geology of Starved Rock. It's available for Kindle and for Apple Books. Links in the description, so have a look. It's inexpensive. One way you can support me is by buying the book. So I will, going forward, be putting more content up on YouTube. Hopefully people find it interesting. If you're interested in seeing more, please subscribe. Hit the like button for this video, and I'll see you next time.